The most beautiful places in the world are often the most deadly, which is why the places on this list have been banned from the public. My name is AJ with Most Amazing, and these are the top 10 prohibited areas in South America no human can enter. At number 10 is Caracas in Venezuela. This place is like a hotbed for some seriously dangerous gang activities. These aren't your regular street groups. We're talking about basically militias armed to the teeth with heavy weapons like all kinds of firearms. These guys are basically their own military force. The units in Caracas have more firepower than the actual police. They basically control entire neighborhoods, and the people living there are pretty much scared for their safety all the time. Caracas has one of the highest crime rates in the world with nearly 41 homicides per 100,000 people. Now, one of the big shots in this chaos is a guy named El Coqui. He's a big deal in these parts. His group controlled huge neighborhoods until a while back. Now, the thing is, he's different from other leaders. He's never been to jail, he runs it from outside of prison walls, and he already lived most and longer in his line of work. The government tried to make things simpler with things called peace zones, which essentially told these groups to stop doing crimes and we'll leave you alone. But guess what? Instead of calming down, they just used that time to gather even more weapons and grow even stronger, turning into a huge mess that made these mega gangs even scarier. So while this place isn't technically banned from the public, anyone who fears for their life should definitely steer clear of this city. And number 9 is Colonia Dignidad in Chile. Colonia Dignidad was like this eerie, self-contained mini society nestled in Chile's countryside. Founded by Paul Schaffner, a former official from the fascist group from World War II, you know the one. This place seemed like a utopia from the outside with lush gardens, schools, and a hospital, but inside was total nightmare fuel. There were tales of this dude's iron-fisted rule, brainwashing, manipulation, and all sorts of creepy mind games. Cut from the rest of the world, living in this controlled environment, people spoke in whispers about the severe trauma that went on behind the closed doors. Physical, psychological, you name it. But it gets even darker. Colonia Dignidad wasn't just about its weird internal rules. It had ties to the Chilean military dictatorship in the 70s and 80s. Rumors swirled around them being involved in all kinds of horrible things and serving as a secluded base for clandestine operations. The Chilean government eventually stepped in during the 90s and investigations were launched. It got its name changed to Villa Bavaria, trying to erase that haunting past, but the stigma remained. Even to this day, it's closed off, with the remnants of a sinister past and ongoing investigations shrouding it in a shiver-inducing mystery. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8 is the Cueva de los Tallos in Ecuador. This isn't your average cave. Legend has it that this cave holds some serious secrets, mysterious metallic objects that are a little bit reminiscent of extraterrestrial technology. There are whispers that these items might be ancient artifacts left behind by a lost civilization. Some say they may hold mystical powers or knowledge beyond our understanding, maybe even relics from a highly advanced ancient society. But here's where things get fascinating. The indigenous tribes in the area have their own spin on these tales. For them, the cave and its treasures are intertwined with their folklore. Some legends talk about the cave as a gateway to the underworld, or a place where spirits dwell. The metallic objects might be seen as gifts from their god or remnants of ancient heroes. But inside this cave is like navigating a maze while blindfolded, as the passages are labyrinth-like. You take one wrong turn and you might as well be lost in a puzzle. But it's not just about the twists and turns. Indigenous folks around these parts believe the cave is off limits for a reason. For them, it's a sacred place tied to their culture and beliefs. So it's not just about respecting the maze, it's also about honoring their traditions. The mystery behind this cave remains intact because access is tightly controlled, and rightly so. Who knows what secrets might still be hiding in those winding tunnels? We may never know. At number 7 is the Javari Valley in Brazil. These tribes in the Javari Valley are like living time capsules, preserving traditions that go way back. Their cultures are a fascinating mix of ancient customs, rituals, and ways of living that have passed down through generations. Their daily lives revolve around what the land provides, as they're masters of survival in the jungle, hunting, fishing, and gathering fruits and plants to meet their needs. So the Javari Valley is where you'll find these groups of indigenous people who've chosen to stay completely isolated from the outside world. So no smartphones, no internet, just their own way of life that's been going on for centuries. Now, why the lockdown from the outside population, you ask? Well, these tribes haven't had much contact with the modern world, and you know how it goes. Introducing them to our world could expose them to diseases they've never encountered before. They might not have immunity to fight off a common cold, let alone something stronger. So to protect them and their traditions, the Brazilian government has put in strict rules, making it a no-go zone for outsiders. It's all about preserving their way of life and letting them thrive without interference. At number 6 is the Cero Sarisariñama in Venezuela. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. This place is like a real-life alien landscape landscape straight out of a sci-fi movie. What makes it special is those big old sinkholes called sima, which are like deep craters that look like as if a chunk of the earth just vanished. These sinkholes are enormous, like giant natural wells, some reaching over 350 meters in diameter and dropping a dizzying 300 meters. But these sinkholes are off limits, because down there, it's a whole different world, a home to unique life forms that adapted to this bizarre environment. The delicate balance of this ecosystem, completely isolated from the world above, needs protecting. So scientists and explorers aren't allowed to roam freely to keep these fascinating sinkholes safe and sound. I mean, you would have thought that this place was banned for your own protection from falling into these crazy sinkholes, but no, the preservation of unique wildlife in these ecosystems is definitely the priority here. At number 5 is Cali in Colombia. Cali, located in southwestern Colombia, is one of those spots you might want to think twice about visiting, because it's got some serious problems with violence and crime. You've got stuff like substance trafficking, human trafficking, and all kinds of gangs running the show up there. And get this, the law enforcement folks often can't keep up with all the crime and corruption happening in the area. Now, it's not just about where you're from or how good your Spanish is. Whether you're a longtime resident, a backpacker, or even a member of a famous band, safety is a huge issue here. Armed robberies are way too common, making it a dangerous place to be. People often fall victims to things like muggings, assaults, and credit card theft. And some seriously awful things happen when victims try to resist robberies. So yeah, it's best to stay informed and cautious when you're in these parts of South America. At number 4 is the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. Definitely butchered that too. The biggest salt flat in the world. It's like stepping onto another planet like the one from the Star Wars franchise. Imagine this vast expanse stretching endlessly with bright white salt as far as your eyes can see. It's a surreal sight. Now, why is it off limits to solar adventurers? Well, picture trying to navigate through what seems like an infinite stretch of pure white. It's not just about getting lost in the terrain, you guys. This isn't your average stroll in the park. The surface might look smooth, but there are hidden dangers like soft spots where your vehicle might sink or salt mounds that could throw you off your track. This barren salt flat means that there are no defined roads or landmarks. It's like a blank canvas just waiting to confuse you. You could be driving around for hours with the only thing changing in your environment is the time of day. So yeah, it's definitely not a stroll you can take lightly. Better to explore this mesmerizing wonderland with somebody who knows the ropes or through organized tours. At number 3 is Iquitos in Peru. Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, you've got this city that's like an island in the middle of a jungle. It's not your typical city with roads leading in and out. No, you arrive here by either boat or plane. Now the thing about Iquitos is that it's a gateway to some seriously wild parts of the Amazon that are straight up off limits. As you venture out from Iquitos, it's like stepping into this maze of green, dense, untamed jungle that goes on and on. But here's the kicker. Not all of it is open for exploration. There are chunks of this terrain that are a no-go zone because imagine this dense foliage where paths disappear quicker than you could say adventure. You've got wildlife that's both beautiful and, let's just say, not the most welcoming if you stumble into their territory. And then there's the whole uncharted thing. It's like wandering off without a map in a place that's huge and mysterious, and you're definitely not gonna find your way back. So while Iquitos may seem like the starting point for a grand jungle adventure, some parts around here are best left untouched. At number 2 is the Madidi National Park in Bolivia. Picture this place as a biodiversity hotspot, like a treasure trove of nature's wonders, packed with dense rainforests and a parade of diversity life. But a lot of these areas here are off limits, not because they're hiding secret societies or anything like that, as far as we know, but for a really cool reason. Conservation. Imagine wandering into a rainforest where jaguars prowl like they own the place and monkeys swinging from tree to tree. That's just a snippet of what you would find here. But to keep this natural wonderland intact, some parts of the park are a no-go zone for curious adventurers. They've got these zones marked out to let the critters and plants do their thing without our meddling. And at number 1 is La Ilha de Queimada Grande, also known as Snake Island in Brazil. Off the southern coast of Brazil sits an island nobody dares to visit. It's called the Snake Island, and it's off limits for a pretty good reason, if you could tell by the name. Legend has it that once a fisherman who went too close to this island was later found unalived in his boat, surrounded and covered in bodily fluids. This place is like a snake paradise, but not the good kinds of snakes. It's home to the golden lance head pit vipers, some of the most lethal snakes out there. Brazil made it illegal to visit this island because these vipers mean serious business. These snakes are special. They've evolved in isolation. They're even more lethal than their mainland cousins because they've only had birds to prey on, so their venom is extra strong to quickly take out entire birds. Bite from one of these guys could take you out in an hour. Now nobody knows the exact number number of snakes here, but it's a lot. Local legends say that pirates or rising sea levels brought them, but the truth is that sea levels rose thousands of years ago, isolating the island and letting these snakes evolve differently. Now, despite the danger, some folks want the snake venom for medicine, as the venom has shown potential in alleviating heart conditions, which has led to something of a black market demand for the venom. For some lawbreakers, financial allure is incentive enough to risk their own lives on this island. As always, if there's a banned place in South America that I missed here today, feel free to let me know down in the comments. This has been AJ with Most Amazing, and I'll catch you all in another video. Peace out.